Hunter saves it. Hunter Hughes is coming around. Here comes Colton Garner. It's Hunter Hughes!
Turn 4 for the final time. Who's got more ponies? Checkered flag out. Bluegrass 150 goes to Ian Miller.
And welcome back to the Daily Driven Podcast, guys. As always, I'm your host, Nick Zammit.
Good, get the name out there. It's like, hey, Joseph Newgarden, you're the guy with the sperm commercial. Yeah.
Time to qualify here from WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca for the Stadium Scene Grand Prix. Here's what to watch for. 50-lap event here in the Monterey countryside with a pit window about halfway through. Open qualification, no cautions, and normal tire allocation. Devin Booker looking to run it back after last victory in Season 2. Are we going to be able to see it one more time? Here's how they'll line up for round number 2. Mark Vickers alongside Matthew Faust. Lucas Puntarelli looking to run it back to go undefeated here in Monterey. He's alongside Hunter Hughes in P4. Garrett Jarnigan in 5th alongside Eduardo Martinez. Then it's Derek Booker in 7th alongside Erik Richardson. John Miles will round out the field in P9. Bill Mulfield in 10th. And a couple of guys with no time, CJ Fluke, Colton Gardner, and Jax Malin. So we will ultimately have to see where the rest of the field goes out. I don't know if there was a feeling that maybe they didn't have a chance. Very, very interesting. So all of that still very TBD, but 10 cars on the grid tonight. 13 cars on the grid tonight for a 45-lap race. Pretty much halfway of what we saw here with the real-life guys on Sunday. So Vickers electing to go for very interesting strategy call here, electing to go long here with the longer lasting primary tires. And it appears that Matthew Faust is going the opposite there with the alternate. So too is Lucas Puntarelli and Hunter Hughes. Clearly a little bit of confidence further back as Garrett Jarnigan also is electing to run it interesting here. Let's see if we can drag someone in here really quickly. Lucas Puntarelli, our former race winner. Lucas, it's Jackson Lambros. Jackson Lambros from the broadcast booth. You got me. No, you're good, brother. Hey, you've won here. You've won here before. What does it take for you to do it to make it 2 for 2 here? Gotcha. Appreciate it, Lucas. Lucas Puntarelli rolling off on the inside of P4. I'm now realizing my Discord isn't linked up, so you guys cannot hear that. We'll figure it out. Mark Vickers on the inside. Matthew Faust on the outside. It's round 2. It's the Stadium Scene Grand Prix. We're green. Phenomenal start from Derek Booker in the Mach 5 as he tries to get into the scene as we head into Andretti for the first time. Still side by side. Major lockup there from Puntarelli. Drags Faust all the way to the outside. Carbon fiber flies as we work our way out of the Andretti hairpin. One car is very off further back. I believe Eduardo Martinez. Yes, it is. Major damage to the 709, but he keeps it going. Vickers in a league of his own. Booker's now fending off Faust with Hunter Hughes in 4th attacking. Major losses further back, though, for Puntarelli as we work our way around for the first time. Look to the inside from Booker, or excuse me, Faust, as he's already trying to make moves. And already it feels like we could have a Zanardi-esque move. Here comes Faust into the corkscrew for the first time. Hugs it all the way to the inside. One might argue that's a more ethical version of what we've seen Alex Zanardi do in the past. Didn't even need to use the beach vacation aspect of that to get that move done, and advances that Miller Lite car back into second. Now Booker fends off from Hughes for that bottom spot of the podium, with Lucas Puntarelli being right there. And it's already 1.5 seconds separating Mark Vickers from Matthew Faust. And already major trouble here for Garrett Jarnigan, which appears to be him, I want to say, running the alternative strategy in the Bucky's machine. Major wheel hop in there as he gets that car back on track. I'm not sure if there was an issue there or not. First start for Vickers after a no-show at Michigan and has come out of the gate swinging. I'll tell you what, Matthew Faust has already chopped that lead in half, had it as low as 0.7 of a second, and charging hard. Battle for the podium, very much alive further back. Little bit of a peek to the inside of the final corner from Hunter Hughes. That's ambitious. Side by side going into the braking zone, definitely a possibility. But at that point, it would be far too late. Turn 1 really going to be your prime opportunity to get that move done. And we've already seen some late Zanardi passes into the corkscrew. But by and large, your most simple way of getting around a car in front of you is going to be lunging it up the inside into the Andretti hairpin, getting a good run out of the final corner. And it requires this entire lap to really get that right. Through the kinks, so easy to get it wrong here. This track not fully mimicked of the repave, so still a lot of sand ready to catch you. And now Hunter Hughes catches Derek Booker with a major sleep there, and Hughes sticks it all the way to the inside as we work down the Rennie curve. Somehow, some way, gets that move done and makes it stick for third. Good stuff from the 18 driver. Now Puntarelli tries to get a move around, goes all the way around the outside. It'll be a better launch for Booker, but Puntarelli is still right there crossing the stripe. Now tucks back in. Are we going to see that move? Look to the inside of the Andretti hairpin. Booker bides it and goes very wide. Look at how much sand has already been dragged from the outside of turn number 2 back onto the racing surface. Booker still managing to defend. The outside becomes the inside into turn number 3. There's plenty more marbles on the inside, and Puntarelli able to hang it all the way around and go the long way for P4. Great moves from both of these drivers, and Booker firing like a cannon at the start of this race has not been able to hold it. Still top 5 for Booker, as further back it's Mulfield, Gardner, and Fluke, the best of the rest thus far. As further up ahead, ooh, major lockup there. Bill Molefield going for an excursion. As Colton Gardner navigates through once again. Double braking zone. The unexpected truth of the corkscrew. Contact between our two leaders. Matthew Faust broadside into Mark Vickers. Oh my goodness, what's happened here? Let's get a replay. Oh my goodness. What has happened between first and second? Across the stripe to begin lap number 5. A bold look to the inside. And man, I'm not sure with this angle. That's a difficult call to steward from the broadcasting booth. And Hughes is immediately there on the scene to snatch those positions. It's still the overtaking car's responsibility. And that's going to go even worse now as Matthew Faust overcooks it into the hairpin. Or excuse me, into the corkscrew. So that dilutes the field big time. Hunter Hughes gets promoted to your race leader. Lucas Puntarelli up into second. And Derek Booker, as a result, actually gets promoted back up into third. So Vickers and Faust now having to come into the pits to work that out. And boy, understandable frustration there from both drivers. Bill Molefield, as a result, moves his way up into P5 in the 911 car. And on the radio, an apology there from Matthew Faust, who takes credit and admits to maybe being a little bit over-ambitious coming into the Andretti hairpin of turn 2. As now, oh, more trouble for Mark Vickers. Overcooks it coming out of turn 3. Is he able to refire it? Yes, he is. Oh, my goodness. And now more trouble. Oh, buddy. Oh, no. More trouble for Mark Vickers. So already one car potentially out. And already lap traffic here for our leader, Hunter Hughes, as he now works his way to the back of Martinez. But now all that extra sand dragged back on track from Mark Vickers. Going to add an extra layer of chaos here. Back into the corkscrew, and this lap traffic has slowly dragged Puntarelli back into contention here. Going to be a matter of who can get through first. As, was there an overtake here we missed? It's still Bill Molefield giving chase to Erik Richardson. A pair of very patriotic cars here. These guys ran side by side with one another at Michigan, and it unfortunately did not end pretty for Erik Richardson as a result. Top 5 to kickstart. Both of these guys would certainly need DJ Fluck in the middle of a sandwich right now with Jax Milan, I believe John Miles, who we're watching here in the Bass Pro Shops machine. So Puntarelli, understandably, closing this gap. He's one of the only drivers remaining here that hasn't had damage, still on the softer alternate compound. As we see an attempt for overtaking lap traffic from Hunter Hughes. As, ooh, big flick there to get out of the way of Martinez. And now a lockup from Hughes. He goes off big time, drags some sand back onto the exit of turn 11. Both drivers on the button. Puntarelli trying to pounce. Hughes trying to recover from that mistake. And now he is right on the bumper of the Twitch TV machine. And again, more grip for now for Puntarelli. But it's only a matter of time before we reach that crossover point where the advantage, the longer grip, the longer lasting life of these alternate tires goes back in the direction of Hunter Hughes. So Puntarelli going to need to get on his high horse if he really wants to maximize the grip that these alternates have for him. Going back and forth right now between our battle for the lead and the battle for P5 as Bill Mulfield still reels in Erik Richardson. Again, plenty of lockups already here at the top of the corkscrew. Technically a double braking zone. And we'll follow John Miles for a good example here as Matthew Faust trying to work his way back to the front of the field after that crash. I don't think he's going to be able to work it all the way to the end on fuel here, as a full tank will give you about 25 laps. Another lockup from John Miles, who has to hug the inside. Faust goes wide to try and avoid him, and we'll take another spot back. And a big dive on the inside of turn 11 is how he pounces once again. Takes P7 from Jackson Milan. Great recovery so far from Matthew Faust. Derek Booker slowly further back, trying to chip his way back into contention. Only two true heavy braking zones are the Andretti Hairpin and turn 11. You're on the brakes twice going into the corkscrew. First at the ascent of the hill, you have to lift off because braking at the crest is what upsets the car. It's putting all of that extra weight on the nose, and why we're seeing some people lock up, not getting off the brakes enough when the whole car gets light over the crest. So hard on the brakes, kind of lift off, then back on it once the car levels out at the top of the hill. And down the 3-story drop, one of the most iconic corners in all of motorsports, the corkscrew. A corner that, if we ride on board here with Luca Puntarelli, can show us just how blind of a corner it can be. On board with Luca, just off of his first real-life racing win with WRL at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. If you needed any more evidence that this guy was good at road racing. I'm not sure if we're already at that drop-off point for the tires. But Puntarelli is struggling to give chase. Turn 7, that left-handed kink up the hill, so difficult. You need to get that line so right. But look at how blind the corkscrew is here. Not able to see the apex until you're pretty much all the way over, passing DJ Fluck, who's gone off with an issue. And then the high G, incredibly physically challenging corner of the rainy curve. Then back on it. Puntarelli keeping Hughes at bay. but not able to fully get within striking distance here. Quarter of the way in here, we'll step away for just a moment, but it's the Stadium Scene Grand Prix here from WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. There's that sound. Ooh, big lock up there from Garrett Jarnigan in the final corner as he tries to give chase to Jax Mullane. And could be an overtaking opportunity here from John Miles. Still not quite in striking distance. Tough braking zone being downhill. But still Miles trying to hug the inside line and use it as a launch zone. A lot of different ways you can take the Andretti hairpin. And now another attempt at the over-under from Miles. And he still can't get there. Oh my God. 1 second, chat. And let's start with your P3 finisher in the Mach 5, Derek Booker. Derek, I know it was a question of whether or not you were even going to be able to make this race tonight, but a phenomenal run for you. What looked like a top 5 became an incident and became a P3 for you. Walk me through your race.
Yeah, I just barely managed to get in a clean lap during qualifying and didn't qualify on the tire I wanted, but that's racing and they're like the future, always in motion. It is. I was not expecting everyone to be so slow on the start, so I just said screw it and went screaming trying to go for the front and just trying to salvage what little track time I could manage. And it was good battling with Lucas until I got VK'd.
I was going to say a little bit of an incident there, but still a P3 finish for you after a 7th at Michigan. How much of a confidence booster is this?
After my strategic blunder at Michigan, I would consider this a good bounce back.
Sounds phenomenal. Great drive for you, Derek, and we'll see you next week.
All right, looking forward to it.
On to P2, and a man who really was bringing that fight, had it not been for some incidents there in the closing laps, Lucas Puntarelli in the 85 Lucas oil machine. Lucas, I think we had a pretty good view of it there with the lap traffic, but just your reaction to the scene there from your cockpit.
Yeah, it's pretty disappointing. We could have had a very nice finish, a very exciting finish, whether it would be me or Hunter who won that race, but it would have been very exciting. But yeah, the lap traffic here was honestly quite a joke, and that was really a shame that had to happen because I was really enjoying it. I'm sure Hunter was probably having fun. We were doing very similar lap times. Hunter, he really gave me a good run for my money. I respect Hunter a lot. He's a very fast driver, especially around road courses, but I felt pretty confident throughout this race. I felt a lot faster throughout the entire race. And the first stint, I had a bunch of wing damage, so I was just tiptoeing around until the pit stop. But yeah, that was fun until it wasn't with the back markers.
What was the confidence like in that final stint? Again, you were one of the few guys that actually opened on the alternate, so you kind of knew that drop-off point for the leader. Do you feel like you would be able to get him there with 5 to go?
100%, I believe so. Yeah.
Still a phenomenal gain of points after a troublesome opening week for you. Well, actually, after you weren't here, but still a confidence booster for the remainder of your season here.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm just glad to be back in the IndyCars. I missed quite a lot of last season due to some IRL conflicts, but my schedule is pretty open now, and yeah, I'm very excited to be back in the car and back with FR Racing and do the season.
I would say real life racing and doing WRL takes priority over doing fake race cars. Phenomenal drive.
Oh, not WRL. Yeah, WRL is fun. Don't worry, that doesn't get in the way of this. Okay. But no, I was just moving and a bunch of other
gotcha.
Personal conflicts got in the way for last season. So yeah, very happy to do this full season coming up.
Gotcha. Well, very, very glad to have you back, Lucas. Phenomenal drive from you, given the circumstances, and best of luck to you next week.
Thank you.
On to your race winner in the number 18 Twitch.tv machine, Hunter Hughes, who certainly had podium pace, but after a major incident at the start between our two leaders. Hunter, what was the reaction there?
This race had a little bit of everything, to be honest. I was kind of, content with running in about third after seeing, Matthew Faust and Mark Vickers just kind of running away with it. So I was like, okay, you know what, we can just chill here. And then they got together, and all of a sudden I'm in the lead, and now I'm protecting the lead. And actually, I was so slow during that second half because I actually short fueled. I missed my marker by about a half a lap. So the whole time I was trying to manage being a half a lap short and trying to save that back. So once I was in the green, I was kind of just, leveraging that half a lap to the good. And yeah, Lucas kept the pressure on the entire time, and I still had a whole bunch of push to pass left, but I didn't really have the fuel to burn through it. So I was just kind of surviving. And then at the end there was just I came out scot-free, but man, I was really hoping to see the battle between me and Lucas, but you know, it is what it is. I mean, it feels like there was so much dust on the track. It feels like there was cars flying all over the place. It was quite fun, to be honest.
How did it feel with grip out there? Because I know you were one of the main guys to make the move over to the alternates at the pit stop and close on the reds. But obviously, as you mentioned, plenty of sand and dust kicked up on track. Did it feel as loose as it looked?
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially going through the corkscrew and like turn 1 and turn 2 was covered in dirt the whole time. I basically had to go into WRC mode for a little bit there to get through those couple of corners, but yeah, all in all, it was a really fun race, and we'll be ready to get them back next week.
Sounds like a deal. Phenomenal drive from you, Hunter. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, see ya.
Your podium after the Stadium Scene Grand Prix with your winner, Hunter Hughes. We're off for just a couple of days and back here Tuesday night. Next week, we're off to Phoenix, Arizona, and the Dogleg, home of DJ Fluke, where we will take it and do it one more time for round number 3 of Season 6. For everybody here at Stadium Scene TV, I'm Jackson Lambros. Thanks for sticking with us, and we'll see you next week.